The following conversation is with Joseph Johnson Jr. Joseph, or Joe, is an performer, actor, comedian, man of many talents. We first met when I was visiting Los Angeles, and I've had him on the Humans of Magic podcast to talk about his interests in tabletop gaming, nerdy stuff, Magic the Gathering. But Joseph is about so much more than that. And in this episode, we really sit down to explore his comedy and how he thinks about the world. This is one of the best reasons for me to do the show is that I can expose the personal side, the passion that really drives people. And there's almost no one more passionate about what they do than Joseph Johnson Jr. Who is Joseph Johnson Jr.?
Um, Joseph Johnson Jr. is a product of his environment, which he grew up in a person who was very heavily influenced by his parents. I'm speaking about myself in the third person, which is weird, um, but kind of cool at the same time. It feels very Shakespearean. Um, I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan, and so I was very heavily influenced by my surroundings, by the good and the bad, by people who were wanting to get out and trying to be inspired, but also like influenced by the violence and the corruption and the the neglect of a person that looked like people who looked like me. And I started to understand and also started to be resentful when I first grew up. And then that turned over to my parents and explained that to them. And they were so great in taking that and going, this is not the rest of the world. This is not the rest of the world. This is not the rest of the world. And kind of like as Superman got plunged into the real world of planet Earth from Krypton, that is how I kind of felt as soon as I went off to college. I was like, oh my God, there's so much other stuff. And so, like, the sponge that I am, I just fed into all the things, the good things, the bad things, the whatever. And that shaped me and let me be a lot more empathetic to people's causes, to people's way of lives, but also like to not be fooled by, the bullshit that goes on and the people who want to use you. And, I was extremely naive, when leaving, the nest, if you will. Uh, and not so much anymore, but I think it's this exterior of like really, really hard ass, but like very, very big heart. Because that's the balance that you have to have. It's like, you know, um, I think that's just the balance you have to have and just in general. And I think I'm just a constant painting that's just keep like, let me just change a little brush right here. Let me make a little tree. Oh, happy accident. Let me, like that. I feel like that's who I've become now, and still figuring out when I make a mistake, or if I make, even if I make even if it's a positive thing, if it's positive, how do I keep going forward? How do I climb the mountain and see the next mountain and keep continuing to be ambitious? And if I fuck up, how do I figure out how to never do that again so the lesson can be learned? Because I feel like the universe teaches us in certain ways. We will keep learning the lesson until the lesson has been taught, and then we will move forward. Um, so yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. I think I'm ever changing, ever evolving, and growing and learning, and just thrilled about this thing we call life right now.
Right on. And I know you wear many different hats, but you're an artist. So like, what does
Yeah,
it mean to be an artist? And how did you choose this path?
I know it's a weird thing where I remember my mom telling me this just recently. Actually, she was like, "I knew you were going to be an actor. I knew you were going to be, in front of the camera since ever since you were like 3 years old. You're like, Mom, I want to be an actor." And you'd get up on, because she used to teach theater, and so I'd get up on stage and like start running around. And I don't remember that. So that's why she had to remind me. But I think we know what we're gonna do when we're that of that naivety of that adolescence, because we're just reacting to how we vibe with the world. It's almost like, all right, you can realize your calling and pursue it, or you can resist your calling and always think what if. And my parents were very encouraging to support me in that endeavor and to say, hey, this is, if you want to be an artist, go for it. So I think that that is something that people are born with. I think people are born who they are, and they just have to realize their potential, and either they pursue it, they kind of pursue it, or they don't pursue it and they wish they did. Um, but I think an artist in general is someone who is in touch with all of humanity, um, where we are striving to make certain changes or certain goals that we have to make life equal and easy for everyone. Um, I think that if I talk to any artist, that they would say that they're trying to inspire X, Y, and Z to get more people involved in X, Y, and Z, whatever cause that may be. And I think that just comes from artists being more empathetic to humans in general, just human beings. If you see, someone walk past the street and they're living on the street or they're homeless, um, it's I know most people are just like, okay, yeah, whatever. There's a homeless person, but I feel terrible personally every time I see somebody on the streets. I want to help them, but I know as an artist, there's feast or famine. Either you're living it up or you're very poor. There's no in between. So, wanting to help and being able to help is two different things. Um, I think it's more like it's like being Batman with no money. It's like you want to seek vengeance for the others, and you want to stand up for the little guy, and you want to fight the man, but you are not in all the cool suits that he has, or all the gadgets, or the influence. All you can do is take it one day at a time and try to inspire and change from there. And I think artists have a lot harder of a journey, but I think that journey, as long as they want to pursue it and they don't mind it being a little bit harder, I think it's it's more rewarding on their end than it is to just go after, because everybody can have different dreams, goals, and whatnot. If your dream is to be a doctor and save lives, cool, that's awesome. Go for it. Be passionate about that. I think artists um, have just a passion in general to be empathetic and understand the human condition. Um, and that doesn't come with a lot of money sometimes.
Yeah. So, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Do people become artists because they're empathetic, or does becoming an artist allow you to become more empathetic as a result?
That is a good question. I think it's a little bit of a yin and yang. I think it's a split. I think some people find their they find their spark, or they find their mutant power. I think they find their their empathy that leads them down a different road, or if they see something that sparks that in them, then they go, wait a minute, this isn't right. I need to change this. I need to be the one that is. So I mean, it could happen either way, but I think the more and more um, you get into it, the more that you start to understand yourself. And I think that's the key, is that understanding yourself, loving yourself, and then trying to spread that love out. Um, so yeah, I think a lot of people go ass backwards and they go, no, 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 I get it. Let me try to help everyone else. I'm like, help yourself first, and then help everybody else, because that's the only way to do it.
So, where are you right now in terms of discovering yourself or figuring things out?
I think I'm in a really interesting place. Um, I discovered this year my love for. I've always known I love making people laugh. I've always known
Yeah,
I
when we
am.
talked before, I that was very clear. Just so people know, like we met up in Los Angeles, which I believe is where you're based right at the
Yeah,
moment, even though
yeah,
you're
yeah,
from
yeah.
Flint, Michigan,
Hmm.
and you're just an entertainer, right? Sorry to interrupt, but that's it's just you're just an entertainer, just a larger than life person. In case people couldn't tell already from the first 10 minutes of this, right? But
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm in a really cool place. I started doing stand up, um, and I was never afraid of it. It was never a thing where people were like, "Oh my God, are you gonna do that thing? Are you gonna do stand up? It's so scary. It's so hard." And it's fun. It's a challenge. It's definitely a different muscle to flex. But I think that, it's the things that we're scared of. That's the thing that we need to go do. We need to like search down that tunnel, because had I not jumped into this, I would not have discovered, oh my God, this is so much fun. Like, yeah, it's scary, and it's like, I don't know if I'm gonna get heckled, and it hasn't happened yet, knock on wood. I don't know if I'm gonna go up on a joke that I had, crafted. I don't know if I'm gonna say a joke and everyone's gonna not laugh at it. Right now it's all discovery. And it's the newness that I had when I first learned how I was effective when I was on stage acting, or with a scene partner. Now there's no scene partner, but the audience is my scene partner now, and I feel like a lot of comics don't relate to that, or they don't come in with knowing that, hey, this entire room is my scene partner, and I have to take care of them just like I take care of my normal scene partner. If I were to be an actor, or if I'm in a acting scenario, um, which is really fucking cool. And I think coming into it from that, I guess that position it's making me excel a little bit faster than I would normally have if I just started. Just, hey, I want to do stand up. Because I'm comfortable on stage, I'm very confident in who I am. I'm having a lot of fun. I have a lot of fucking stories that are crazy. They're just crazy. Like, one piece of advice I got from a friend, he told me, all right, if you go on stage the first time you do stand up, tell the truth. Just tell the truth. And I was like, okay. And so he's like, it's going to be the easiest thing, because no one can deny your truth. If you
mhm.
know exactly what you're saying, just talk about that. And people will be enthralled because they'll know you're not bullshitting. The moment you start, tweaking little things here and there, that's when people can start, I don't know. I don't know if that was true, too truthful or a lie. But if you formulate it in the way that you're telling the truth all the time, people will never disengage. And that's what I've
Mm.
seen so far.
That's so interesting, right? Because even though I'm someone who's not done stand up, but I've watched a lot of stand up, there's just something about the human race. It's just people, there's this like invisible energy. Like when you speak the truth or when you are on,
Hmm.
it's just something that goes like I don't know how to describe that. Like, can you describe that? Because I don't understand like what happens when people are like connecting, when a whole group of people are connecting. It's not just since time immemorial, right? It's not even just like stand up. It's like a great speech. It's like,
Hmm.
you know, a leader calling his or her army to
Hmm.
action. Like, how do you have any explanations for like how everybody in the room is just suddenly all on one wavelength almost?
I think, and the times that I've been there, I've blacked out. But I know that my truth is so strong that by the time I get to the end of the speech, I come to and I'm like, oh, I'm here talking to a bunch of people. And they're all like, and I'm like, okay, here's the last joke. We're going to do the thing. Are y'all with me? And everyone's like, yeah, fuck yeah. And I'm like, what just happened? But I think that what that energy is that you kind of like, it's almost like an out of body experience. It's almost like you kind of sit back and go, all right, now I'm observing the situation. The energy in this room is immaculate. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone's standing up. I mean, the last set that I did a set at the Federal in North Hollywood, and like from jump, I I knew I had the crowd. Like, it was just like you said, that energy, whatever that was. I knew it was like I have the entire fucking room, and it was a sold out crowd. It was the first time I've been to like a sold out thing. It was about, I would say like 85, 100 to 100 people, which is not crazy. But the source of the room, like it was just like everyone was kind of clumped together,
Hmm.
and it was just like it was like nothing else. It was like I don't really know how to explain that. Maybe I haven't found out how to like channel that, because the only other time, there was a few other times, but the only other time I remember that specifically happening was when I was in Othello playing Iago, and we were playing at the Kennedy Center, because we had like won all these awards. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, so good!" And so they flew us out. They're like, "Please, can you put your production up at the Kennedy Center?" And they'll remember the scene where Iago was just jumping back and forth to different people because he's like, "All right, I need to like get this in motion. Okay, that's falling out of place. I got it." And it was just like weaving the web. And I don't remember that scene at all until I get to the very end. And um so I'm there, and I look out into the crowd, and everyone is just like on their feet, and I'm like, wow, that was really fucking cool. And I get backstage, and everyone was like, I don't know what you did, but that was something else. And so it's like I'm still trying to figure that out, like what that is. Iago has to like kind of weave his way back into, I guess, his like get them to come to his reality, because I feel like that's the difference in Othello is like everyone's living in their normal reality, and Iago is trying to like orchestrate this thing, this puppet master. And there's this one scene that I just like blanked out, did not know what happened the entire scene, but as soon as it was over, standing ovation from the entire audience in the Kennedy Center. And I go back behind stage, and everyone's like blown away. They're like, dude, I've never seen you do that. Like, where did that come from? Like, damn. And I had no idea. I was like, what just happened? I had no idea what happened. And like I said, it's a similar experience from, a few weeks ago. I had the same kind of like, I wouldn't even call it out of body, but it's just like just so in tune with that, like you said, like that energy that's going on. It's like I'm not trying to deny it. I'm actually collecting it. It's almost like Dragon Ball Z, like the Spirit Bomb. You're collecting everybody's energy,
Hmm.
and everybody's like giving it to you. They want you to succeed. And I feel like that's maybe the trick, is that we get to this place that we think someone doesn't want us to succeed. Someone doesn't want us to, uh, be the best that we can be. And so we start to fall short, or we start to not be as confident. And then people pick up on that energy, and they go, well, I don't want you to be as confident now. But if we come in with that, no, I want to fuck some shit up. Do y'all want to fuck some shit up? And they're like, yeah, we want to fuck some shit up. Like, all right, let's fucking do it. And they're like, yeah, let's fucking do it. But if you came in like, oh man, I kind of want to fuck some shit up. Like, nah, no, you don't. You're like, yeah, you're right. And I feel like maybe that's it. Maybe we just discovered that shit together right now. Maybe.
It's like when people give you this nudge, and then like
Mm,
I guess it's a general thing in life, right? It's like you just need to be emboldened sometimes, even though
hmm.
it's in you all along, right? I think
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, and I mean, just taking the risk, like, because big risk, big reward. And it's like worst case scenario, like, and we're going back to stand up. Worst case scenario, people don't like what I said, but
Hmm.
I'm not like my stand up is not offensive to the point where I'm like talking about like racial slurs, or calling people names, or picking people out of the crowd to like shame them for what they look like or anything like that. That's not my comedy. It's more, it's a truth. It's a telling of a story that's a real story, and maybe giving my friends shit, but not like naming them. But they know if they come to the stand up, they're like, okay, that's me. And I'm like, yeah, 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 motherfucker, that's you. But it's, yeah, I don't know. It's just a different kind of focus. It's just very, very specific. It almost reminds me. I don't know if we talked about this with my training when I trained with the samurai before. I feel like it's very much like once you once you have enough training, like you have to structure chaos. And once you get it structured, then you can start breaking all the rules. Because you can't come into a thing breaking all the rules because you don't know the rules. You have to find out what the rules are, and then you start breaking them all. Um,
Mm.
yeah,
You have to get good at the fundamentals, like the
hmm
10,000 hours or whatever the stereotype is. Then
yeah,
you can subvert it or circumvent it. But you
yeah.
have to get the basics first.
But you have to, and you have to respect what the training is. And I think a lot of people who come in as artists, they want to just be, I want to be a superstar, and it's like, okay, well, that's cool if that's your goal, but like, why do you want to be a superstar? Like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be like rich and famous. I'm like, why? What is that going to serve you as a person? How are you going to be fulfilled? And a lot of people don't know why. They just know that they see this lavish life and they see, all this stuff going on. And they're like, oh, but I want that. I'm like, well, what part of you is going to be filled? What void are you trying to fill with that hole? Because if as an artist, if you're not wanting to give back to community, you're gonna get burnt out real quick. Because should be a lifelong thing. It should be a thing that you are happy to do with no one's paying you or no one even gives a shit. It should be something that you want to just give back to and just have fun. People seeing on the outside in like what they want as as an art, or what they think they want as an artist,
Hmm.
and then the artist being like, oh no, this is, if it doesn't come from this place, you're gonna burn out fast.
Mm.
And but like what is that, what is that thing that people want? You have to like challenge them. And a lot of my my teachers over the year have been like, okay, cool, why do you really want to do this? We come to class and like they'd ask people like, why do you really want to do this? And my thought was always, because I know I can, and I think I'm really good at it. And they'd be like, okay, cool, let that simmer, let that evolve into something. Because they were like, there's no wrong answers here. Why are you doing this? And it went from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year to senior year, and it got to the point where I was like, I want to inspire a completely different generation of people that grew up like I did and don't have to do that, do the sports route or the drugs route or like they don't have to be subjected to their environment. They can rise above it. And I wanted to inspire people to know that, hey, there's more options to be successful. And I think that has been like my driving force, the thing that's keeping me going.
So, if I can take what you said and kind of extrapolate that to comedy, so um, what is your why? Because like it seems like the why would be a combination of like setting an example or a positive example for others.
Mm-hmm,
Maybe a part of it could also be a continuous reminder for yourself, like
mm-hmm,
just setting a good example for yourself. As weird as
yeah.
that sound, I don't know if that's the right phrase, um, but also entertaining
Mm-hmm.
in the process and maybe making people laugh. Is that fair to say, or is there more to it, less to it than what I'm representing?
No, I mean, I think that's a really good thought because a lot of times, like, and I've heard this before, I don't know where, but someone said that the easiest way to get someone to pay attention is to entertain and like educate at the same time. And so if you're doing both, people are more likely to tune in if you are spitting facts, but those facts are also hilarious.
Mm.
But you're doing it in such a way that like now you're kind of re I guess like re-educating people who maybe have lost that or forgot, or because like if I say I made a joke about the homeless and I really wanted to like fix that problem, and then I made fun of like everyday folks and like how I don't know how I'll set up this joke, but like at the end of the punchline is like, you lazy fucks, you walk past people every day and this is you, and like turning the mirror on people and being like, oh damn, that was funny, but like, yeah, I do that. like
Hmm.
kind of teaching them that lesson of like, yeah, here you motherfuckers, like here's the mirror, like be better, you know? Um, yeah.
Is that the best kind of comedy for you? The kind that it's funny, but also allows people to think about it after or to look inward? Is that just like the epitome of it for you, or am I misreading that?
No, I think it's how I'm starting. I mean, I started my stand-up journey this January and it's August, and I found that that's that's the way in through, at least for me, through with comedy. Um, because I feel like I don't know what my end for comedy was out here, and then I feel like that is my end. I feel like, okay, this is the way I can open the door to myself for myself, that everyone can see, all right, cool, you liked this idea and I got all these other ideas too. So I think it's just the gateway to like have people experience that specific kind, but then also knowing, hey, I got a thousand more ways to send this message out as well through comedy. um yeah.
So you mentioned telling your truth, but how does your what is your joke writing process like? Like how do you decide going into a show or a performance what you're gonna try to do? Is it yeah, I have no idea. I'm not a comedian, so I've always
Yeah.
wondered, and I know people do it differently. So
Yeah, like I said, I definitely start with the truth. I start with, I used to do this in college. I used to tell just stories of shit that would go down. And people were so enamored because they were never been through that before. And I think that growing up, like I said, I am a product of my environment, so I carry it with me. Um, but I also know what parts to leave behind and what parts to take with me. And I think it's such a unique experience that telling those stories with a different spin is allowing me um to get that message out. So it's for me, it's about how does this relate to what's going on now? How does my story now relate to what's presently going on? Or how can I tie that together? I try to make it so that whatever I'm saying is relevant for every single from the moment I start talking to the moment I end my set. Um, it's very calculated. It's all written down. It's like a monologue, but then I'm very meticulous about it up until a certain point, and then I let it go. And I go, you know what? Let's just go out there and have fun. If I get through it, I get through it. But I know the structure is there, and I think maybe that's what I was talking about earlier. Is like having organized chaos. It's it's allowing to hear and see what people how they're reacting, and to then pivot in different directions if I need to, with tones or inflections, or saying something a little bit louder, or calling somebody off for being on their phone, or whatever that may be. That's just yeah, that's yeah. So it's right now that's my process. It's more of a story monologue kind of situation that kind of just encompasses everyone, and it's like, hey, if you don't know this, like, I and I will riff in between jokes. I mean, I had one where I recently was talking about the brawl that happened in Alabama, the giant brawl that went down with the security guard and the frat guys like jumping him, but then he threw his hat in the air and it was like a beacon for all the black folks to come out, and it was like the Avengers came out of nowhere, and like it was just this through line, but then it turned into a joke about consequences, and then those consequences then led to another joke about was something that happened with me, and then the through line came all the way back, and it was, and I made a Rosa Parks joke that ended the thing with a chair. I was like, it was crazy. Like I said, I don't remember anything from that night, but it's all recorded. I will let you see it all very soon. But yeah, that's my process so far. Is it, also just going to open mics and just trying different stuff and just improving. Like there's an improv mic that we go to where you pick a random topic out of a hat, and so you just have to improv on that word or that topic, and that sometimes brings up like, "Ooh, I know what this word means to me. How do I structure this into a 5 minute thing or a 10 minute thing or 8 minute thing or whatever that can relate directly to people?" Yeah,
How
long winded.
no, 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 that's it's really interesting. Like how so when you go on the stage and you have certain things maybe written out or prepared ahead of time, it sounds like you're also just adapting in the moment. Like if you get a certain positive reaction, you might go harder here. If you get
Hmm.
like a kind of lukewarm, you might stay away from it. Like that
Yeah.
sounds like, and you mentioned the word improv, so it sounds very much like you're just uh improv yet instinctive. Is that fair to say? Like
Yeah.
there's just like I guess your unfair advantage is just like your past background as a performer or
Mm.
actor. That's just allows you to understand that, or not even understand. Sometimes you're blacking out, but just like just being in it, right? Just being in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think being in just reading the room in general, I think like a lot of people what I'm finding out is a lot of comics who I see visually are approaching this as a thing that they have prepared, and then they come through and this is their joke and they're this funny, and they've been told their lives by someone that they're funny, or their friend group that they're funny, so they kind of come with this thing and they go, "Hey, I'm going to tell this funny joke. You guys didn't laugh. I guess that joke wasn't funny." But I think humans are so much more complicated than that, but also very easy to understand if you just listen. And a lot of times I see these comics will come up with this, and you'll see the circuit of comedians. They'll go around this different venues and do the same routines. I try to switch it up a lot because I get bored. So every time I do a new show, it's a new set, unless they're like back to back to back. Um, so I'll try to come up with this thing. But when I get on stage, I'm reading the room. I'm taking in everyone that's there because I want to include everybody. And so I'll say something that I know this, or I think that this crowd may react positively to, because I want to get everybody on a high note. I want to get us all on the same page, so we're all riding together. I don't want anybody to feel not included, because I think a lot of comedians will go, "All right, let me single this person out and make them feel like shit," and then everyone else is laughing at them, but they're not having a good time.
Mhm.
So my goal at the end of the thing is I hope you had a good time on this ride, whether it was about you, whether it was not about you. We all just have some fun. And we can all agree as humans, this thing. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people just they're not trying to connect with the audience as a scene partner, you know?
It's more just like to use a maybe an RPG term, you
Hmm.
folks are just NPCs. Like I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna do my thing. If you
Yeah.
don't like it, tough.
Yeah.
If I kill, it's because I'm great and I knew I was great. People told me I'm great.
Yep.
And if it didn't work out today, it was just something off with you guys. Like it's not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So it's like you guys are just kind of almost like the background
Hmm.
to me, and I'm
Hmm.
just gonna do my thing, which I think there's some merit to that, because like if I look at the devil's advocate, it's also kind of like fundamentally we can't fully control what other people respond to us in certain ways. So it's kind of like you kind of do have to be just in your own head to survive sometimes, right? I'm
Yeah.
not even just talking about, I guess it's more like a life thing, but
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
I can see merits to both. But the question here is like, I find it so hard. Like, how do you strike that balance between like being yourself and doing what you believe in
Hmm.
versus people pleasing? Like, or maybe
Hmm.
like an extreme example would be if you know you single this person out in the crowd,
Hmm.
you're gonna kill it. Like, let's say that you know that this is like the magic button now. Like, because of the way the set or the joke has been going, you
Hmm.
know that you're just gonna get an amazing reaction if you like go hard and single out this person.
Right,
And
right.
maybe even the person gives you the impression that they can take it, like just laughing along. But
Yeah.
is there maybe there's some other tension that's holding you back, like because
Mm.
you have your principles. So how do you deal with things like that in the moment?
I guess in the moment, it really depends upon, like I said, how they react. Like if I rarely do crowd work unless someone gives me a reason to like they bring like a lot of attention to themselves, and I'll like say something. Like I said, if someone's phone goes off, I'll be like, "You answer that?" Like fucking answer your phone. Like it's loud as fuck. Like we all want to hear it. What do you want to say? And they're like, "Oh no 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 no." I'm like, oh. And I'll see how they react to that, because like no one likes to be embarrassed. No one likes to be called out. But if they're like laughing and joking along with me or whatever, then that's fine. I won't take it that much further, because I know that they're there to be entertained, and they're there for their paying customers. They came to laugh, they came to have a good time. So I'm gonna give them that. I'm not gonna like make anyone's time feel bad. Like, oh well, this sucks. I don't want to like I don't want to go to a comedy show anymore because now I feel like shit. Even though they deserved it in that moment. But maybe it taught them that lesson. Maybe they're like, oh, you know what? Next time I go out, I'm gonna make sure I fucking shut my phone off. Maybe that maybe they were the person that always went to the movie theater and they had their fucking phone on bright and they got through it. But now that's like, oh, that changed their whole perception because
Hmm.
they got fucking called out.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's like just enough. Even if it were that thing in that moment to like kick back and like go after that one person, I think that's too easy. I think I wouldn't be challenging myself to go, how do I, okay, cool, that one time it worked that one time. How do I develop? How do I keep developing these skills and keep getting further and further? Because that's low hanging fruit,
Yeah.
and I could get up there and tell black jokes all day. I really could, because it's easy and it's me, and no one can contest that. And I do throw race in certain situations because there's sometimes we just can't avoid it. But it's not to the point where I'm being, I guess, um, I won't say excessive, but like it's not like,
Maybe it doesn't define your jokes or your humor.
yeah. Like I
Like
open
no one's gonna say
sometimes.
Joseph Johnson Jr. is the fill in the joke type
Right.
comedian or something,
Right,
right?
exactly. And I see a lot of those, and they're very successful because when you read like low hanging fruit, you go in there and like I actually when I did the Alabama thing, I knew that would be a little bit of low hanging fruit. So I was like, how do I make this story mine? How do I give them my take and passion on this thing that happened? And I think that was where it synced together, because I found something that I found so funny that I just wanted to talk about. And I found my way to explain the story through my eyes, even though I saw the same story, that I saw the same thing that happened that everyone else saw. But I used like the Avengers metaphors and like all this other shit that happened when it was going down. I was like, Doctor Strange went to the hood, and when he was opening circles up and opening portals up, and motherfuckers was just running out, and that everyone saw what happened, but it was like, okay, that's his take on it. That's funny. Um, so yeah, I
It's your
it's a
unique take on it, right? And
yeah,
also
yeah, yeah,
knowing you,
yeah.
you're a Marvel fan. Like there's certain things that you bring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Certain things that I'm passionate about that I really, really like and enjoy. And I don't think I've gone on stage without wearing some kind of like anime inspired thing, because then people can like know instantly, oh, he's a fan of this. All right, cool. Like that lets me know a little bit more about who he is as a person. Um, and like also just not really like going up is a very vulnerable thing. Like being on stage is very vulnerable. So I feel like the only way to do it is like shields down. And I know I said earlier in the interview, there's this delicate balance of like, all right, when I'm put this, hey, I'm from Flint, fuck you, but I have this big heart. And that can't happen on stage. It
Mm.
has to be shields down. I have to have the big heart. Now you get to see it. And this is that moment of, okay, anything can go down. I can't put the shields back up anymore. They're fully down. So like I'm very vulnerable. But I think people appreciate that because they see a side of me that they don't get to see unless they're my friend. Like unless we're like homies, I get to show them that side for 5, 10 minutes and then take it away.
How
Um,
many shows or how many appearances have you done? Do you keep a count?
shit. Like straight up like, hey, I'm booked on this show. Come pay money to go check it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I booked my first show in April. It was like I think middle of April. So it was April, and then that I did three, eight shows
Okay.
since
And that
April.
doesn't count like I guess the smaller ones where you're like improv or like
Yeah,
just practice getting
I'm
that
not
in.
I'm not counting those because those are open mics and those are just in front of mostly other comedians. Sometimes there's other people around who just want to come check it out. But 8 shows. But we've been doing like both Julie and I have both been doing open
Julie's your
mics.
partner, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's my. She was the one that actually inspired me to go because she was like, "Hey, I want to start doing stand up," and I'm like, "Where did this come from?" She was like, "I don't know. I always wanted to do improv, and fuck it, I just want to start doing it." And so I was like, "Well, I'll back you up. Let's do it."
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
went every mic. We've been to mostly every mic together. I think there's a few more that she's been to that I haven't been to, and vice versa when she was like out of town. But we hit the ground running January 2nd, and I probably hit a mic or two or three at least every week since then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, like, is it still scary, like, to do a show or to do something? Is it? Yeah. I mean, or is it different kind of scary? Has it evolved? That kind of thing.
It's it's about as scary as getting on stage and performing. Um, but something that Julie said was so brilliant to me that she said when I get up on the stage, if I fuck up, that's on me. And if I do a great job, that's on me. But I don't have to worry about anybody else. It's just all on me. And I was like, huh. And that let a little bit of fear go because I'm like,
Oh,
well,
really?
if I'm prepared and I'm having fun and I'm having a good time, then fuck it, whatever. Like, let's get on, let's do this, And it allows me to let go a little bit more, when I get up there. But I think I'm always gonna have the jitters. I think I'm always gonna be nervous before I do anything. I think that's just wanting it to go well, wanting it to you know, because in your head you picture this thing. Like a lot of times I'll have a set and I'll picture how the set's gonna go, and
Visualize it.
it'll never go down. It never happens like that. But usually it happens. What happens is it goes way better than you anticipated.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it goes worse. But like if I'm at that mode where I care so much about something that I'm like mapping out where people are gonna laugh at and where people are gonna, and it usually surprises. It's such a cool thing if you say a thing and you get this surprise laughter, this erupting out of the crowd. You just know that you're just like, okay, I could say shit, fuck, blah, 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 and people would just be like, oh my god, I'm having a good time, because you're having a good time.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah. What were we talking about again?
Well, I was gonna ask, what is it like to bomb? Like every comedian
Mhm.
has those moments, right? So when that happens to you, what does it feel like, and how do you adapt? Like bombing could be a whole show, it could be like a
Yeah.
moment, right? It could be different variations in length.
Yeah. I mean, when I feel like I'm not connecting with the room anymore, I just feel like then I just go on autopilot. And I'm like, okay, let me just get through the set now. We're no longer improvising. We're no longer, doing the thing. I'm just going through beat by beat. Here's my set. Just to let you know I'm prepared. Here's my set. Because a lot of times I'll see, performers and they'll bomb and they give up on themselves. And I think that even if you bomb a joke or you land flat on your head, you can still come back. Because I've seen comedians start strong and end poorly, and that's what we remember. And I've seen comedians start poorly and end very strong, and we were like, oh my god, they were amazing. And so it's kind of weird in comedy. It's like your last joke is your best foot forward. the last thing they're gonna see on stage is the thing that they want to is the thing that they're gonna
You're
remember.
as good as your last joke kind of thing.
That's it. It really comes down to that. So if I've seen some guy, like I said, I've seen guys that started off so strong, like the first 8 minutes, brilliant, and then the last 2 minutes they just said some shit that someone didn't agree with, and it took the wind out of their sails. And then they said another thing, and everyone was just like, "Oh!" Like you got the audible groan from the entire audience, and then
Hmm.
you're just like, "Damn, dude, you could have just shut the fuck up at minute 8, and you would have went out like a champion."
So what's the secret? Like just when you have a joke that connects, just make sure you just end it quick, or like because you
I
want to keep
mean,
going, right?
yeah, people like I'd say this, like in all regards, like less is more. And when you leave them with something that leave them wanting more. Always leave people wanting more. Be like, "Oh man, I wish he had like 2 more minutes. I really wanted that joke." I often don't even get the light because I'm mapped out in my head where I'm at with my thought processes and where my jokes start to land. Even like adding in little seconds here and there, it's so far. And then when I know I get to that, like we just did one that was like we got 7 minutes. Mine was I kept practicing at home. It was like between 6:15 and 6:30. So I was like, once I get to this point in the story, I know if I keep trudging forward, I'm at 6:15, 6:30, and I didn't even get to the 7 minute mark where they give you the light and go, okay, cool, wrap it up in 1 minute. Because I feel like when you're that involved, you give them a little bit of taste, and you're like, cool, pull back later, y'all. If you're giving your everything, um, and I feel like that is way more powerful than milking it up until the point where like they're flashing the light. Like every time
Mm.
I've seen that,
Like
it's just like,
6:59, and
yeah,
where
just
you
like,
go over
dude,
a
get
little.
off the stage, like wrap that shit up. Like we know you're funny, okay? You know what I mean? Like even if you're on fire, people
Mm.
can only take so much until you're just like, okay, cool, like you're funny, dude. Like we get it. Like let the next person go on. Like
Yeah.
you kind of get that sense of like almost like entitlement. Like, no,
Mm.
I wrote this much. I'm gonna do this much. You guys are gonna listen. And it's like, okay, now you're taking the now you're taking the whole crowd hostage. You're taking us hostage, and like we can't get away because if we walk away, that's rude. And what if somebody has to use the bathroom? I don't know. It's all these different factors. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, man, okay, cool. Just, like, and like literally, they could be flashing a light at them, like, hey, your time's up. Like, you got to
Right.
come on. And I've seen that before where it's like, ooh, that's kind of weird.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'd say less is more. Like give the best 5 minutes you can versus the best, even if 5 out of 8, and like I would rather have people going, oh man, I wish they stayed up longer.
Hmm.
I want to see them like next time I see them in the marquee, I'm gonna sign up to go see their shows. They're really funny.
Right. Leave
You
them
know?
wanting more, right? Nobody in the history of the world ever said like, uh, you know, uh, that was a great show. It was like, 50% over time, and it's like, or maybe it does happen. I don't know. I don't know. But I think that speaks to kind of the empathy, or being
Hmm.
empathetic, and how people around you are not just NPCs, right?
Right.
Yeah. I want to make a bit of a shift here. Like, it's kind of a heavier topic, but
Sure.
because as someone who's empathetic and socially conscious, and I understand spent most of your life in America, growing up in America, like,
Mhm.
where do you see the world going? Or maybe like, where do you see America going in the next
Hmm.
little
Oh
while?
boy. Oh boy. Um, you know, I think there's a lot of tension right now because there's so much change going on that the world is showing us this is how society should be. And there's a lot of people in America that refuse or don't want change or don't want to grow or don't want to evolve. They just don't want to hear it. And it's kind of it's kind of upsetting, but then at the same time there's really nothing you can do with a made up mind. Like I've learned that now, trying to argue or, trying to talk to people who are just flat out racist, or just flat out just don't want, to allow, you know, trans people to live, or don't want gay people to be able to have marriage, or don't want women to have equal rights. These people that there's no whatever circles that they're in, or whatever like echo chambers that they talk to each other in, they stay in that. And it's becoming more and more and more of a trend to be blissfully ignorant. And I think that we see the loudest ones come out now because there is going to be a big shift. I think when the Mitch McConnells and the Donald Trumps and the Rudy Giuliani's start to go away and start to like phase out, and there's going to be this shift, like when the boomers start to get out of here. Like there's going to be a lot of change. Like I feel like millennials and Gen Z have a lot to say, and a lot they're very passionate about getting everyone their fair share. um so I think that on a negative note, it's shitty now and it sucks, but I feel like when people are going through a certain thing, especially on the other side of it, they're going to be the loudest now because they know they're losing power.
Mm.
And I think once it comes back, the pendulum starts to swing. It's already swinging back to, like we said, the Batman's gaining power now. Batman's getting money.
Mm.
We as a society are going to start to take these people and just like cast them out. Like, hey, you're on the wrong side of thinking when you say those things. So if you want to, we can go over there, and that's going to be starting to become more of the normal. And stop giving these people a platform, and give people like that are spreading joy, and are spreading love, that want things to be equal for everyone, that want things to promote change and to provoke change in others. And that's just where it's going to end up,
Yeah.
because that's just how that's how human beings work, and no one hates anyone else because that's their natural progression. They were taught that. They were
Mm.
taught that, oh, that's different. I don't like change. I don't accept it. Um, but when you actually sit down with someone who is like that, or is whatever you don't like, and you have a conversation human to human, oftentimes, I'd say a good, like, maybe 8 out of 10 times, that person's perspective is going to switch, because they'll go, oh, I didn't see you as another human being, and now that we're talking, I understand. Like, maybe I'm the idiot, you know?
And you're saying a lot of that comes from change. So it's almost like people that, I don't know if I'm projecting, but like
Hmm.
I'm sure people feel this sort of underlying frustration about change, and they feel like they need to hold on to something, and
Hmm.
maybe that something becomes anger or
Yeah.
becomes like hate.
Yeah.
Is that I don't know if that's fair to say. Like,
No,
because if I try to get into people's psychology, that's kind of what I think about. Is like I don't want change, and so I'm going to hold on to things that I believe are kind of like my last stand in terms of
hmm
having a position.
yeah. And it's one of those things too, where like, I feel like if people were more open-minded, and I think a lot of these people are very open-minded, but like you said, they're holding on to this thing that they think they have to believe in so hard, and they've invested their entire lives into this. It's like the Star Wars fans, or the Magic fans, of like, oh, I gotta hold on to this so hard that I don't like change. This is where I stand. And it's like, you know these are a very small group of y'all just angry about this, and we've all moved on. So we're gonna continue to keep moving on. You can stay in your little hole if you want to, but that's fine. And eventually they'll realize, and they'll look around them and they go, oh, it's just me, you know? Um,
The challenging thing though about the world now or the internet is that anyone can find people that agree with them, right?
yeah.
Or it's like you can always find your tribe. So that can be used in both good and bad ways. Because it used
Mhm.
to be like maybe if you were, um, I don't know, like a terrible racist in some small town, like you wouldn't connect with anybody else. But now it's
Mhm.
like hey, there's a Facebook group for that, or there's a
Yeah,
YouTube channel for that, or there's a
right.
person on I don't know, I'm not super up to date with like the channels, but like Fox News, or I don't know, like
Hmm.
there's certain like people on certain networks that it's like, oh wow, this is now a mainstream point of view, right? So that
Yeah.
becomes yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is me saying like just fuck it, blame everything on the internet, but it's obviously more complicated than that. But I think there's also just the connectivity also allows us to. It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, it is. It really is. And when you break it down like that, it's gonna take a little while for things to start to chip away. But I think right now we're seeing the worst of it, and it is gonna get worse than this. But I think only to then get better, because when you see people get this loud and this upset and storm the Capitol and like commit voter fraud and just go through these extremes to try and hold on to their precious morals, and as terrible as they may be, and to be that loud about it, they're afraid. And that's the fear coming out, that change is coming, whether they like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that it's like, hey, we're all in this together. So either you can get down with it or you can lay down, but we're marching forward, you know?
Are you ultimately a pessimist or an optimist when it comes to kind of like the long term, where things are going?
I think the Capricorn in me is a pessimist, but I think the Libra moon and rising are both optimistic. So that outweighs my pessimism. Um, I think that I think that I really do see people changing, and for the better. Um, I just think that there needs to keep being examples of humankind doing kind things to humankind, and as long as we can keep moving forward with that trend, then I believe that we'll all not all get on the same page, but more of us will be on the same page than not, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll end up looking like, well, if y'all are still in that ancient way of thinking, I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna die off like the dinosaurs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What can we do to become kinder to each other or to be more kind in general?
Um, it's hard to walk a mile in anybody's shoes. It's hard to think about, you know, being in someone's position, because I think, especially after COVID, I think a lot of people had this mentality of, if it's not happening to me, then it's not happening. And I saw a lot of that, and that alienated a lot of people, especially in 2020 for me. Um, that had that thought process where, like, well, I can go out and still party and hang out and do whatever I want. And I'm like, well, you could also be hurting someone. They're like, oh, well, it's a made up thing. It's just like the flu. And then they end up, I didn't know anyone that personally passed away from it, but like a lot of people did. And it was real. And it went until it got to that point where you lost someone that you loved, or lost something that you loved, or lost someone that meant something to you, that, oh man, no, this shit's real. um I think a lot more people are starting to open their minds to that and go, oh man, if we could just take care of one another, we'd be way better off as a society, as just people in general. I mean, it goes back to like, treat people how you want to be treated. And if you aren't being treated, to expand on that, if you aren't being treated the way you want to be treated, then you need to not allow yourself to be treated that way, because a lot of people will let themselves they'll let themselves be loved the way they love themselves, and they'll allow that kind of love into their lives when they need to deny that and go, no, 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 this is the way I want to be loved, this is the way I need to be loved, and this is the way I'm going to love. And you will start to see people's entire circle of friends change just based on that, or people that they let into their lives, because they're not allowing um, that kind of love to be pressed into them. Also, I feel like after I feel like in general, like America needs a lot of therapy. I feel like everybody just needs like just therapy in general, no matter even if you're having a good time, if you're having a good day, if you had a good week, a good year, good, whatever. I think everybody deserves that clinical, like, I guess, analysis of what they're
Mhm.
going through. Uh, because there could be something that they could be doing even better. They're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Huh, I could be even happier. Let me go that route. Um, so
On
yeah.
that note, Joseph Johnson Jr., it was great having you today for this conversation. Uh, yeah, I mean, what's the best way for people to find your work? Or I guess there's an actor strike right now, so you can't promote
Yes.
too much, but
Can't promote too
caveat.
much.
But yeah, I mean, what's the best way for people to get to know
Um,
you a little bit more?
well, first and foremost, thank you for having me once again. This has been amazing.
My pleasure. Yeah.
To be on the new. um, yeah, if you can find me, if you like Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs and all that kind of good fun nerd stuff, you can find me at Tabletop Jocks. Pretty much on all platforms, like, well, YouTube, Twitter or slash X while it lasts. Um,
I'm still calling it Twitter. I don't
yeah,
care.
I mean, like, whatever. I'm not.
Might be another name change next week, so
Yeah,
you never know.
exactly. But if you want to find me promoting my comedy, my stand up, my acting, when I can, comedy is fine. I can promote my stand up. That's two different worlds. But once strikes over, if you want to find me promoting my acting, uh, at Joseph H. Johnson Jr. on Instagram. So use my full government name. And at Black Nito underscore on X, Twitter, whatever the fuck. Same thing, the Joseph Johnson Jr. on Threads. And I believe my blue sky might be Black Nito. I don't know. So one of those. I got a link tree.
Haven't logged in a while, right?
Yeah, I
That's
got a
yeah.
link tree. Just go to that. The
Okay.
link tree has literally
We'll put
all
some
my
things in the
stuff.
show notes. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. People will be able to find you. You're larger than life. Thank you so much, man of many talents, Joseph Johnson Jr. Take care and be well.
Later, y'all.
Thanks for listening to The Why with James Hsu. To support the show, please leave a rating on your favorite podcasting app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any platform really. It helps spread the word and tell others that you enjoy my work. Same goes for YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and leave a comment. That helps get the word out and goes a long way. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.